invested in gold and silver for all of these years. Why is gold so hated?
It's out of the hands of government or anybody else. These crazy people have been right. $27 trillion in debt. The economy desperately needs more stimulus.
It is the most important financial education investment you can make in your brain here. And our guest today is Brian Lundin. He's the president and CEO of Jefferson Financial and the publisher of the Gold Newsletter. We invested in gold and silver for all of these years. And for those who may not know the history of gold, is that in 71, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, which meant the government, treasury, and the Fed could print as much money as they like, and the economy took off. But all sleigh rides come to an end. And we're coming to the end of that sleigh ride of just easy money. So Brian knows personally Jim Blanchard, who made gold legal again. My question to you is this: why is gold so hated?
Well, because it is, as you mentioned, anti-establishment. Gold, very simply put, is freedom. It's security. Because what we're seeing today has a few variances, but there's nothing new under the sun. Every time throughout history, when civilizations, when governments have overspent, and when they did that, the only way to handle these debts that they would accrue would be to devalue the currency that they were denominated in. Today, every economy, every country is in the same boat. They've all created these monstrous debts, and the only way to handle it is to debase their currencies. But they're all racing to the bottom of the hill at the same time. So, people talk about the value of the dollar. They talk about the value of the dollar in relation to the euro or the yen or other fiat currencies. What everything is devaluing against and will devalue against because it has to.
One of the arguments we hear about gold is, if they confiscated gold in 1970, or if they confiscated gold back when, what's to stop them from confiscating gold again?
Nothing, frankly, that they could try. And there are ways to protect yourself. There's ways to store gold. There's ways to buy gold without there being a record that you own it. A way to store it even domestically or even overseas, where, it's out of the hands of government or anybody else. Back when the government when FDR confiscated gold, he didn't actually confiscate it. He said, hand it in and I'm gonna pay you $20.67 an ounce today. And then a few weeks later, he revalued it to $35 after he paid for it all. But anyway, back then they didn't confiscate, for instance, historic US coins. So you can buy historic coins that are trading close to bullion value and call yourself a collector, and you'll probably have some degree of protection from a future confiscation. But I think, frankly, the risk of that is low because these days, it would have such a hue and cry from people about confiscating gold that I don't think it would go over today. It has happened before. Human nature is the same as it was in ancient Greece, in ancient Rome, and that means the government is the same. They're going to screw over the common man to protect themselves, to protect their source of power.
Brian, we've talked to all sorts of people about their future outlook and their crystal ball on the future of gold. So given this pandemic, what do you see? What do you see coming down the road?
Well, more of the same. Federal Reserve and central banks around the world have built this house of cards through not just easy money, but ever easier money. They pegged interest rates at zero now twice over the last decade or so after each financial crisis. And this is unprecedented, really, in human history. If you go back before 2008 and hearkening back to what you said earlier about crazy people in this sector, these crazy people have been right all along, and if you look at before 2008, if you would have said, we're going to have interest rates at zero, more than that, we're going to have the majority of sovereign debt out there at negative interest rates. We're going to have the federal debt doubling with each president. We're going to go upwards of $27 trillion in debt. We're going to have all of these things happen with the Fed just printing money hand over fist. And people would have told you back then that you were crazy. But now crazy talk has become normalized. It's become accepted as the way things are. So the Federal Reserve is going to keep doing that. Fed Chairman Powell just talking about how Congress really needs to err on the side of too much stimulus, that the economy desperately needs more stimulus. It's just a matter of who's going to make the highest bid on which side of the political aisle. There is absolutely no fiscal restraint anymore, and the more money is printed, the cheaper it becomes, and obviously the more valuable things become, for most of them gold, which is of course the monetary metal. The other side of that coin is that this is an incredible environment in which to make money, because as gold and silver prices rise, those mining stocks that you were referring to also rise.
What are some of the mistakes people make when investing in gold?
The most common mistake is they look into it a little bit and think they understand it. If you're going to invest, I mean, this gets right back to your whole mantra about education. I tell people that it's a great sector to invest in because it's inefficient. If you're willing to do the research, you can take advantage of these inefficiencies and find some just outstanding, incredible investments. But if you're not going to take the time, then just invest in the major mining indexes.
Gold and silver are the investments of today, not tomorrow, but today. America was discovered not because of the California beaches, it was because of gold. So that's why it could be the best investment time and money you could spend.